Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of 10 Minutes with JPIDS. I'm your editor-in-chief, Ravi Jhaveri. Today, I wanted to talk to you about our impact factor. We just got our 2024 impact factor, and it's 2.6. And I wanted to sort of walk through a little bit of what that means. Uh, a lot of people debate about whether to pay attention to impact factor, and it's not the end all and be all for a journal, but I think that there are some important nuggets of information that I think um, are worth taking a deeper dive into. So you'll have to bear with me. I know this is a podcast, but I'm going to share my slides are here a PDF. And so for those of you that are interested in the graphics, you'll need to watch the YouTube video, and I will do my best to, for those who are listening, to walk through the details. Okay, so this just basically tells us this is basic information about the journal, and then tells us our impact factor of 2.6, which is a nudge above where it was last year, which is 2.5. So you may remember that I've discussed sort of what impact factor is, how it's calculated. It's the total number of citations that you receive in a year. And the denominator is the papers that have been published over the last either 2 or 3 years. I always love to look at the math. Okay. The 2 years prior. Okay. And so this is where it comes in. So citations for those papers published in 22 and 23 over the number of citable items. And so that's where you get this 2.6. We had 526 citations that came from those 2 years out of 201 articles that were published between 2022 and 2023. So that's where we get the 2.6. Okay. And for the prior year, um, and actually the other number is if you don't count self-citations, where you subtract a few of those, our number would be 2.5. So it's really that just tells us that it's not as if we're running up the stats by citing our own papers, that the citations of JPIDS articles are from other journals outside of JPIDS, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Okay. So this next page just talks about the contributing items, and I think it's one of the, if you look, the top two articles are opportunistic pathogens and cystic fibrosis and exploring the cystic fibrosis lung microbiome. These are both from one of our supplements from 2.5, 3 years ago. And it's really important. We say this all the time, but supplements are a really important source of information for any journal. But this is particularly why, because they often have really important reviews of content that people really want. And because those reviews are really useful, they often get cited when anyone writes a sort of infections and cystic fibrosis type article. And so it's not surprising that these are highlighted in our top two items for citation. The third item that's listed on the citable, most often cited, is a paper about breastfeeding and HIV. And this was a single center study that we published a little while ago, but that's been cited because many of you are aware that breastfeeding recommendations for patients living with HIV is an evolving concept, and we are changing how we discuss breastfeeding and really opening the doors to allow much more sort of shared decision making about breastfeeding. And so you can see that this kind of paper is going to draw attention. And so as we in the editorial team think about the portfolio of articles we accept, we focus on the quality of the content and not necessarily on the trend because we can't predict what's going to trend. The next one is just progressive hearing loss in congenital CMV after ganciclovir. This is an article that was submitted on its own, and it's an open access article. And so that also has garnered a lot of citations because congenital CMV is a sort of constant interest for all of us. And the last paper just had to do with a change in seizure incidence with febrile children with COVID-19. So again, the idea that we were seeing lots of children who had acute COVID and had febrile seizures, and this is an important observation. And so I think this speaks to the importance of the diversified portfolio of articles that come in, supplements that we sponsor and curate, original articles that are submitted by authors, other brief reports that come in, and then occasionally perspectives and systematic reviews that fill out our the types of articles that we publish. So again, I want to thank all of our authors, those who submit their own articles, as well as those who prepare supplements. This is a really important part of what makes our journal go. Um, this just highlights the different journals that come in. So again, it's not just that our papers are being cited by JPIDS or by PEDS IDJ. The list is vast and spans both infectious disease and pediatrics. So the next several I'll just read through: clinical infectious disease, pathogens, pediatrics, BMC infectious disease, Journal of Clinical Medicine, PLOS One, vaccines, viruses, frontiers in immunology, hospital pediatrics, microbiology spectrum, vaccine, current opinion in infectious disease, frontiers in pediatrics, Helion, um, clinics in perinatology, Journal of Cystic Fibrosis, Journal of Infection. And so again, this spans many of the different disciplines and speaks to the reach of our journal. The next stat I just want to highlight was the total citations that our journal has uh, received in a given year. And that's 2,582 last year. I think this speaks to the fact that over the last several years, the reach of our journal has grown, the total number of citations has grown as our content has grown, and it speaks to the quality of papers that we are attracting and publishing, and ultimately that authors who are preparing their own papers want to cite the work that's in JPIDS. Open access, we've talked a little bit about open access. For those who are unfamiliar with open access, uh, if you want to publish a paper in JPIDS, for the vast majority of people, it is free to do that for you. But that article then lives behind a subscription wall, meaning that you either have to be a member of PIDS in order to access the journal, or you have to work at an institution that has a license through often their library or institution that allows all of their employees to access those journals. Open access means that an author can pay a fee that allows the journal to live for free on our website and open to anyone. And so of the citable items, we have about 20 percent of those. And the citations, basically 20% of our cited items are coming through open access. And so I think this is also an important part. Open access is an important choice and option for authors, and more funders are requiring open access. And so for those who aren't aware, we offer substantial discounting to our PEDS members and our FPIDS members to publish open access. And so if you have questions about open access, please feel free to reach out to us on the editorial team and we'd be happy to help you. This next figure just basically talks about where we rank in the different categories that we belong to. And I would say the two biggest ones are infectious disease and pediatrics. If you look at all the journals in the category infectious disease, we are moved this past year from the third quartile into the second quartile. And so that means that, our absolute sort of ranking from impact factor amongst all the ID journals has nudged up. And those of you who can see the total denominator of journals in this category has also increased from 132 to 137. And so we rose in rank, and we also are ranked ahead of many more journals this year compared to last year. And so that sort of prompted us to move into that second quartile. I think that's a good place for us. And obviously, our hope is that we continue to move higher by publishing good quality content in that field. But we're a pediatrics journal, and so we know that we have a generally smaller sort of constituency. And so I think it speaks to, again, the quality of the content and the fact that despite a smaller portfolio of journals compared to, all the adult infectious disease journals that are out there. Within pediatrics, we are solidly in the first quartile, and we rose in the first quartile this year compared to last year. Last year, we were at the 76th percentile. This year, we're above 80% at the 81st percentile. And so within our field of pediatrics, people recognize that infectious disease is important and that we are an important source of information for them. And so, again, I think this speaks to the quality of articles, and not only, sort of ID wonky articles, but bread and butter PEDS ID articles that attract the interest of people within pediatrics. And then this next two figures just speaks to the cited half-life of journals, which is the idea that our citations come not just from papers in the last year or 2 years, but actually that over the last several years, our papers that we've published are still being cited. And so it goes back 4 and 5 years, which again speaks to the enduring quality of the work that that is being submitted and that we're trying to publish. Uh, and the last figure I just wanted to highlight, this figure just basically shows in a different way the top 20 journals that are citing our work based on the number of citations. And so you'll see the top right. Let me make this figure just a little bigger for those who are able to see. So the two biggest pieces are JPIDS and PEDS IDJ, but you'll see that the two together only make up less than a quarter of this total graph. And then when you look at other journals that are citing JPIDS content, Pediatrics, Frontiers in Pediatrics, PLOS One, Pathogens, Vaccine, Viruses, BMC, Infectious Disease, JID, OFID, CID, Microorganisms, and then that last quarter is a small number of other journals with a smaller number of citations. So again, it speaks to the reach of JPIDS over time. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing at this point. And I just want to again say that we don't invest everything in what we're doing based on impact factor. It's one metric that we follow. The other things that we do, and this is not a report we have for this, but I can share it at some point later. We also look at other alternative metrics that measure a journal's impact. And increasingly in the current era, those might be downloads, those might be page views, those might be social media shares or distributions. And so I would say that JPIDS also has steadily increased the metrics on those numbers. And in a different episode in the future, I can talk more about our most recent analysis there. But just wanted to share a little bit of my thoughts on impact factor. Again, it's a nice way to say that the journal continues to do well and that we appreciate the authors who contribute to us, the reviewers who review for us, our editorial team who works hard to curate this content and discuss and work with authors and reviewers, and you, the readers, for consuming the content that we're putting out there for you. It's a team effort, and we really appreciate it. Okay, that's all for this episode. I will see you next time. Thank you.